Even though we're 5 minutes early. uh, welcome for once. Welcome to Hispaniola 2014 Justice, Nationality and Migration. We will start, my name, as I told you, Jürgen Sölüri from NTNU. The first panel today is the first session, Underlying Challenges, Dominican Republic and Haiti. And we've got three presenters here to talk to us today. Mats Lundahl of Stockholm School of Economics, Wenke Hauge of Prio, and Danilo Contreras of the University of Texas. They will all introduce themselves as they start. They will speak until, a maximum of 20 minutes, and then after the presentations there will be opportunity to ask questions or make comments. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Mats Lundahl. I used to be professor of development economics at the Stockholm School of Economics. I've retired since 1 year, which of course doesn't mean anything in practice. It's just that I don't have to deal with the damn students and the goddamn administration anymore. So I can devote my time to research. And Haiti has always been one of my themes. I've actually worked on it for 45 years. Now I came to Haiti the first time in 1969. And it's one of those loves of early youth that you never get rid of. I've sworn many times that I won't touch it again because it seems so hopeless. But then, of course, every time I do it, somebody calls me the next morning and says, hey, you have to do something for me. So I've done 6 books on Haiti, one of which stands out. It's on my best pal in Haiti. It's called Isael Saye, Maestro and Legend, a portrait of my pal, his times and his music. And the rest is about economics and politics. And my topic today is a topic that you find that permeates much of the current literature and discussion on Haiti. It actually deals with the rice tariff in Haiti. Because when you read people like Beverly Bell, Robert Fatton, Alex Dupuis, and Paul Farmer, some of the recent books on Haiti, they all say that one of the big problems, or the biggest problem there is in Haiti, was that the rice tariff went down from 50% to a mere 3% in the mid-1990s. And that has brought on all kinds of evils, as you can see here. And the story is that before that, Haiti had food security. The country produced most of what it consumed by way of food. And then when the tariff was reduced, what happens is that American rice, Miami rice, pours into the country at the world market price and minus the subsidy, of course, that has been put on for the American rice farm. It's $1 billion per year, so it's a pretty heavy figure. And so imports went up. And then, of course, this, as you could expect, would lead to a drop in the price and to a drop in the production of Haitian rice and rice farmer incomes. And then there is a more advanced part of this argument, which said this was done on purpose to make the rice farmers leave their fields, move into Port-au-Prince, where they could be used by the Americans in the apparel sweatshops. So and then there is one more part, and that is what should be done in order to rectify this. And the answer here is obvious: increase the tariff again, because that will lead to an increase of domestic rice production. It will restore the food security of Haiti. And then also beyond that, and this is a theme that I will come back to tomorrow in the panel, the development strategy. But the idea is that Haiti's development strategy must rely on agriculture. And my views do not coincide at all. And this is what I will try to show to you, that none of this is actually true when you look at the facts. Haitian agriculture cannot be developed with the use of tariffs. And then we have the real problems, agrarian reform and erosion control, and the interaction of the agricultural sector with the rest of the economy. These are also topics that I will postpone for tomorrow. So as of now, we will concentrate on the rice tariff itself. So let's start with the fancier part of the argument, which said that the tariffs were lowered in order to bring people into the cities, and that is definitely not the case, because if you look at the history of Haitian migration, rural-urban migration, Port-au-Prince had around 150,000 people, 200,000 people. I mean, figures are a little bit shaky, around 1950. And by the time of the earthquake, as you know, it was more than 2 million. So something has been going on for quite a while, from the 50s up to that point. Migration, migration doesn't start in 1994. No way. And then the question is, why? What was the driving force? It wasn't the rice tariff, it was something else. If you look at the Haitian agrarian history and you go back to the revolution, the Haitian population dropped by around 150,000 people from the revolution to 1805, and then the population starts growing back. During the 19th century, Haiti had a land frontier, as it was. You can expand. Land was a free commodity. The peasants could just squat on the land and start cultivating it. And this land frontier is closed at some point during the last quarter of the 19th century. And then something else happened. Then agriculture starts to intensify. And this is what is taking place today. There is a very useful theoretical backup in this, and that's what is known as the Rybczynski theorem of international trade. And what the Rybczynski theorem states is, if you have two goods, in the Haitian case, export goods, that's coffee, and then you have food crops. And these goods are produced with the aid of two factors, land and labor. Forget about capital, because that's virtually non-existent in Haitian agriculture. And if, in this case, the export crops are land intensive. They use plenty of land. You know, coffee, you just harvest it. It's there, and you don't do anything. You just harvest it. Food crops are much more labor intensive, because you have to be there all the time. You harvest several times a year, etc. And what then happens, according to this theorem, is if you have constant prices, and one factor grows, in this case the population, the only way of accommodating this is that the commodity using the growing factor intensively, that is food crops, will expand, and the output of coffee in this case will decrease. And that is exactly what you see on the Haitian hillsides. Peasants have been chopping down the coffee trees and planted food instead. And that is not an innocent mechanism, because what happens then is you destroy the soil. Because when the rain comes, the soil is washed down into the valleys. Go to Port-au-Prince during the rainy season, and you will find yourself wading in red water, which comes from the hillsides. And the process doesn't end there, because once you started to destroy the soil, you add another impetus, because reducing the land or increasing the population amounts to the same thing. What matters is the man-land ratio. So you go into more production of food crops. You chop down more trees, and you don't need population growth anymore, because the process will feed itself. And then on top of that, the population keeps growing. So you get a cumulative process. Over time, the soil will be destroyed, per capita income will fall in the Haitian countryside. And that is precisely what has taken place at an accelerated pace for over 100 years, 50 years, depending on how you look upon it. And that is the basic mechanism that pushes people out of the countryside. Because too many people, too little land, and then you leave in order to try to get a job in the cities. So there was no need to create this fancy reserve army. It was already there. So why should you then lower tariffs to do that? It's an absolute overkill. Now, what about food security? If you look at the figures, Haiti was never food secure in modern terms. In modern times, because all the available evidence there is since the 1950s points out that there was widespread malnutrition among children, widespread malnutrition among adults, protein, calorie malnutrition, too low weight, too low height, vitamin deficiencies, what have you. Just look at the figures there in the paper. Here is only one example. The 50% had a calorie intake below 75% of the recommended level, 36% below the recommended protein intake level. That is the truth. Haiti was never food secure. You can always say, okay, Haiti produced 80% of the food it consumed, but it was not enough. So that's not food security, at least not in my view. Now, what about the rice tariffs? That is also something that people seem to have gotten wrong. I don't know when the first restrictions on rice imports came. Could have been probably during the Duvalier period, could have been earlier too. Then there was a system of import licenses. You had to apply for them. And of course you can figure out how these licenses worked. The money went here into the pockets of the governing clique. And then what you do in 1987 is you change the system. So you get a specific tariff you get an ad valorem tariff of 50% instead of the specific tariff you had before, and you do away with the import restrictions. And this is important because then possibly something happens. And then you have the second round, 1994-95, when you decrease the tariffs. What happened then? Well, consumption has obviously gone up for rice. These are figures from the mid 1990s, but I have a feeling you can extend it backwards. And what about imports? Because what the argument says is that imports are low up to a certain point, and then they shoot up. Now let's see. Here is the figure for imports. So here is the year 1987 when you took away the licensing. There's a peak here, but then it falls again. So what does this tell us? Not very much. And here we are up to 1994, 95. There's another peak, but then it goes down again. And look at the trend. There's an almost linear trend all the way from the mid 1990s. So if you smooth the trend, you don't find the kind of effect that was predicted by this thesis. And then, of course, also if you look at these year 94 is when Aristide comes back as a politically unstable year. 86 is the year when Baby Doc fell. So there are other reasons that could be behind that. What about production? Well, if you see here, production falls here after 1987 to 88, according to the official Haitian figures. But here they climb. That doesn't make sense either. Then there are other figures, the FAO estimates. You can see here that there is also here it climbs up to 1990. It shouldn't. And here, what do we have? Well, it increases and it goes up and down in a seesaw fashion. So these production figures don't make sense either if you believe in the argument. And here you have imports, they go up. And if imports go up like that, you should expect production to go down, but it doesn't. I mean, it's relatively stable, both series. So then the question is, if we go back to this, there's something else probably driving this trend. And my hunch is that it is the inability of Haiti to produce enough food. Because if you have this tendency that you can produce less and less, it should spill over into imports. And that is what has happened all the time. And that is why you get this kind of trend. If you look at cereal prices, here you have also the close substitutes, corn and sorghum. They follow each other fairly well. If there is anything in this, it's a slight downward trend, but the peaks here, they don't make much sense either. because if this is in 1997, it should go down, it shouldn't go up. So there's obviously something wrong with that as well. Now, the next part is what will happen if you increase tariffs. There's a recent study by Carlos Furche from Oxfam, who cannot, that's an organization that cannot be blamed to be on the right wing. And he looked at which are the constraints on rice production. Is it the tariff or is it something else? And he lists a whole lot of constraints that you have to deal with. The water systems in the Artibonite, they're old, they've not been properly maintained, the seed quality is low, you don't have high yield varieties, you don't use enough fertilizer, cultivation techniques will have to be improved. You have the small plot problem in Haiti, and also the problem that the plot is small, but it's also scattered all over the place. There's tenure problem. Haitian peasants don't have title to their land, no written deeds. Drying and milling is a problem. You lose a lot in that process. Transportation, there is no official support really from the government or from other entities. Smuggling, of course, from the Dominican Republic, it's so easy to take things across the border. So then the presumption is if you increase the price through the tariff, the supply will not respond. It will be sluggish. There's a low supply elasticity of rice. So what Furche argues, and he's done some simulation studies to support it, what you should do is to try to raise yields, not tariffs, because the effect of raising yields on incomes is much higher than it would be if you raise tariffs. And also, if you look at the political agenda, this is what the Haitian government seems to want to do. They say that it's out of question to increase the tariffs. Now, here is a diagram that you can summarize the argument. This is the market for rice. Here's the demand curve. Here is a supply curve. And here is the world market price for rice. So we're here today. This is how much you consume in Haiti. This is how much the Haitian farmers produce, and the rest is covered by imports. Okay, so what happens if you put on a tariff? The price goes up, production consumption is reduced to this point. You produce more rice domestically, and imports shrink. Here are the here is the tariff revenue that accrues to the state. And as you can see, the consumers lose sort of this area. This is a measure of the welfare loss, because they have to pay more for the rice and they consume less. The producers gain because they produce more and they get a higher price. So it's either the consumers or the producers. The tariff has effects that favors one group and hurts the other group. Then some people have suggested, okay, you should subsidize the consumption of rice. Say that we want to keep it at this level, and you want people to consume as much as they did before, you should be here. So then they would be at least equally well off. But then, of course, this is the price. Here is no problem, because this is what you can get from tariffs. So you can subsidize that part, but you can't subsidize the part that you have to pay to the domestic farmers. That will have to come out of other taxes. So then you have to increase taxes or get money from elsewhere to do it. And the tariff can never help you. If you say that you put on a prohibitive tariff, which means we will be up here, domestic production covers the entire consumption. This is where you can get, and of course the loss to the consumers will be even larger. The trick instead is what Furche suggested. You have to move the supply curve. The supply curve has to come down here, because if you have a supply curve here, then the Haitian farmers will cover the entire demand, and consumers will not be worse off. They will consume at the same price. And how can you do that? Well, pushing the supply curve downwards and rightwards, that comes out of increased efficiency, increasing yields, removing the constraints that I talk about. And tariffs have absolutely no role to play in this, because the maximum they can do is to get you up here at a much higher price. So the rice tariff argument is a false one, as far as I can see. Nobody would be really better off with it. And also, as I said, this dodges the real agricultural issues. But those we will save until the panel tomorrow. Then we'll see if we can get into a bit of a more positive analysis, because this has been really on the negative side.
Thank you.